On July 17, 1981, the silence of Yosemite's High Sierra was broken only by the rhythmic clatter of mule hooves against granite. At 9,400 feet, the Sunrise High Sierra Camp is a place of stark, oxygen-thin beauty. A cluster of white canvas tent cabins, accessible only by a grueling hike or a specialized pack train. Among the 10 travelers who arrived that afternoon was 14-year-old Stacey Arras. She wasn't a novice. She was the daughter of George Arras, a seasoned outdoorsman who had brought her into the backcountry for a classic California adventure. While the rest of the group was busy unpacking in the thin mountain air, 14-year-old Stacey Arras was focused on the horizon. An aspiring photographer with her camera already slung around her neck, she spotted a stand of trees near the ridge and asked her father if she could take a quick walk to capture them. It was a routine request that drew no suspicion, a simple detour for a photo before dinner. But in the time it takes to snap a shutter, that mundane moment turned into a 40-year mystery. Today, we are following the final 50 yards of a girl who stepped out of sight and never stepped back. The geography of the Sunrise Camp offers a deceptive sense of security, consisting of undulating sheets of gray granite peppered with hardy lodgepole pines. These wide-open vistas ensure that a person remains visible from a significant distance, provided they stay on the rock. Gerald Stockhill, a 77-year-old member of the party and a friend of the Arras family, volunteered to accompany Stacey on her short trek toward the overlook. They moved together across the stone, but the combination of the high altitude and the uneven grade eventually took its toll on Stockhill's stamina. He stopped to rest on a sun-warmed boulder, telling Stacey he would wait right there while she finished her short climb. From his vantage point, he maintained a literal visual tether, keeping his eyes on her as she covered the final 50 yards, the length of a standard swimming pool. She was framed perfectly against the gray stone and the deep blue sky. Stockhill watched as she reached a small cluster of trees and stepped behind them to find her angle for the photograph. He waited for her to emerge on the other side, expecting to see the flash of her bright clothing reappearing against the granite. But the minutes began to pile up, and the ridge remained empty. In the crystal clear mountain air, where sound travels with uncanny sharpness, the silence was absolute. When Stockhill finally stood up and walked the short distance to the trees, he found a vacuum. The 50 yards between them had effectively become an impassable boundary between two different worlds, leaving Stockhill standing alone in a landscape that had just swallowed a human being in the blink of an eye. The alarm raised by Stockhill triggered a tactical response of unprecedented scale, transforming the quiet camp into a military-style hub within 24 hours. Over 150 volunteers, professional rangers, and elite mountain climbers flooded the area, supported by helicopters equipped with thermal imaging technology. They expected to find a girl who had perhaps tripped or taken a wrong turn, but they immediately slammed into a physical brick wall. Stacey had made a fateful decision before leaving her tent. She had removed her heavy, treaded hiking boots and replaced them with a pair of thin, flimsy slippers. On the dusty, granitic soil of the High Sierra, these shoes should have acted like a forensic stamp. Every step should have left a scuff mark, a broken pine needle, or a clear indentation in the dirt that searchers could track. Yet, as the teams moved outward from the point where Stockhill last saw her, they found the ground was a total blank page. There were no drag marks, no disturbed earth, and no evidence of a slip. Even more haunting was the total failure of the K9 units. These bloodhounds, capable of picking up a human scent trail days after a disappearance, couldn't find a single molecule of Stacey's scent leading away from the trees. Every dog brought to the site circled the same small patch of ground and then sat down, looking at their handlers with confusion. It was as if her physical presence had been lifted vertically off the mountain, leaving the search teams to scan miles of terrain for a girl who hadn't left a single footprint on the planet. As the initial hope of a quick rescue faded, a small, chilling discovery provided the only physical evidence the mountain would ever yield. Resting on a downed log near the ridge was Stacey's plastic lens cap. It wasn't hidden in the brush or crushed into the dirt as if dropped during a struggle. It was simply sitting there, a pristine circle of plastic in a world of ancient stone. This artifact confirms a specific timeline. Stacey had reached her destination, stood by that log, and prepared her camera for a photograph. She was at peace, focused on her art in the seconds before the world shifted. However, this find raised a much darker question regarding her equipment. Stacey was carrying a bulky, heavy SLR camera, a piece of 1980s hardware that does not simply evaporate. If she had been snatched by a predator like a mountain lion or a bear, the heavy camera would have been the first thing the animal would have forced her to drop during a struggle. Such an attack is a violent affair that leaves behind shredded fabric, blood, or disturbed vegetation. But the immediate vicinity lacked all physical markers of a struggle, as the granite and surrounding soil showed a total absence of hair, blood, or predator tracks. Searchers spent days crawling into every granite fracture and peering into every crevice within miles, expecting to find the heavy camera or the remains of the girl who carried it. They found neither. The lens cap remains a solitary monument to the exact second the timeline of Stacey Arras was severed, leaving behind a piece of plastic, but taking the camera and its owner into the unknown. The absence of clues has allowed various theories to take root. Some investigators suggest a predatory human took advantage of the brief window when Stacey stepped out of sight, though the quiet nature of the disappearance complicates this idea. Others point toward the jagged geology of Yosemite, proposing that she slipped into a deep, narrow fissure that effectively sealed her away from the search teams. These theories remain unproven, yet they provide the only available explanations for how a person can vanish so completely. While the physical search for Stacey ended decades ago, a different kind of battle continues to rage within the administrative halls of the National Park Service. The Arras case has become a focal point for investigators who believe the government is withholding the true nature of what happens in America's wilderness. For over 40 years, every attempt to access the full investigative file via the Freedom of Information Act has been met with a standardized, impenetrable wall of silence. The Park Service maintains a specific legal designation for the file. They claim the case is open and active, a status that functions as a perfect legal shield. By keeping the case technically open, the government is legally allowed to withhold witness statements, original search maps, and forensic reports that might shed light on her final moments. They have even refused to release the names of the other hikers who were at the sunrise camp that afternoon, citing privacy concerns for individuals who are likely now deceased. This level of secrecy far exceeds the norm for cold cases from the early 80s, leading many to wonder if the Rangers discovered something during those first frantic weeks that they were ordered to suppress. For George Arras, this lack of transparency was a second, more prolonged tragedy. He was forced to live his life in a state of suspended animation, knowing that his daughter's story was locked in a government filing cabinet he was never allowed to see. Today, the Sunrise High Sierra Camp still hosts travelers who stand on the same granite slopes and look out at the same trees, unaware that they are treading on ground that the law and the land have conspired to keep secret forever.